We are now into the year 2018. It is the winter of 2018. The Australian cricket team is currently over in England playing a one-day international series there. Now, it has been 10 years since we last saw some international cricket played at Alice Springs and Darwin. On 3 separate occasions, there was an experiment to hold international matches at those 2 venues over the course of the winter break in the cricket season. In 2003, Bangladesh came over for a test series and one-day series. In 2004, Sri Lanka came over for a test series, and then in 2008, Bangladesh came over again for a one-day series, and that is the end of that experiment. It seems that they're no longer interested in that idea, and that's why there has not been such a series scheduled in the last 10 years, and instead we've seen other things such as Australia tour England. They've toured England obviously in 2009, 2013 and 2015, and they've also done it in 2010, 2012 and now in 2018. And also they went over to Sri Lanka in 2016 in the June, July, August period. So in terms of creating cricket content to fill in those harsh winter gap of June, July, August when it's very cold and wet down in Australia and you want to play cricket somewhere, it seems that Australia have decided that they would rather tour somewhere else and not host any matches here. Now, this is obviously disappointing for a number of obvious reasons based on why such a series in Darwin and Alice Springs seems like a good idea. On the one hand, you have the question of bringing cricket to the other parts of the country. The fact of the matter is that Darwin and Alice Springs continue to be neglected by the National Australian Cricket Authorities. The 6 states are the venues for all serious cricket, the 6 major cities. It is a wild experiment to ever go outside of those cities. Even to go to Geelong is quite wild. But to go actually to the centre of the country, to Alice Springs, is very rare. And in fact, the 2020 cricket, the Big Bash League, did do it, but the Australian international cricket has not. The international cricket is too busy focused on Canberra and the 6 major cities to actually pay attention to Alice Springs and Darwin. The other major concern is obviously playing against minnow nations, because the actual summer cricket is so important, because it's so important for ratings and for getting attendance, that you have to make sure that it is the best teams competing against Australia. And so Australia is very reluctant to invite Bangladesh or Zimbabwe or now Ireland and Afghanistan over to play a major test series in Australia, because that will take up space that could otherwise be used to host much more serious competitions. And so how do you make sure that you're hosting these opponents without actually taking up valuable time in the main test cricket summer? Well, you host some cricket in the winter, because hosting it in the winter is away from the major attention. But how do you do it when it's really cold and wet in most of Australia? Well, you play in Darwin and Alice Springs, where it's still hot, and it's hot and dry for much of the year, or it's hot and wet. But it's certainly hot enough to play cricket. So those are the 2 major reasons why you would want to have these sorts of winter test series. One is to make sure that international cricket gets to be played in other parts of the country, not just the capital cities, and also the fact that you get to host these minnow nations who otherwise would not bother to get invited to play in Australia at all, because they aren't competitive enough to be major banner competitions and actually draw in the numbers in the actual Australian summer. The other question, of course, is obviously to fill in the viewing gap, because obviously there are people who support cricket and follow cricket, but they aren't interested in football. And so during the winter, they actually find there is a lack of content, and that they're craving out to watch some cricket, and they want to see something. But because there is nothing to watch in Australia, they normally will just go and watch something interstate. They'll usually turn on and watch TV and watch some cricket on TV in England or India or elsewhere. And so it's quite common for the Australian cricket scene to lose out to the other markets during the winter period because they are not providing any cricket to watch. And so that means that people who enjoy cricket, who don't enjoy football, and who are craving more content to view are just going to go elsewhere. And so by actually creating these winter cricket series, you're actually providing your cricket fans with something interesting to watch during those cold and lonely and dark winter months. And so that is a third reason why this series is a good one, why these winter test series actually provide some sort of substantive meaning to the overall content of Australian cricket over the course of 12 months across the entire country. But of course we all know why this decision has been made. We all understand why the Australian cricket authorities have decided to move away from Darwin and Alice Springs and have focused their attention on other matters. And that's because test cricket is very expensive to organise. It involves a lot of financing costs in terms of players, in terms of ground staff, and often you won't get your money's worth back because there are too few viewers to actually have the revenue of advertising TV dollars, and then there aren't enough people who attend the ground to actually make up the money in terms of ground attendance. And so there's no way of actually properly financing this test series. There's no way of this test series in Darwin and Alice Springs to actually be a profitable venture. And so the question of, economizing in terms of cutting costs, in terms of only focusing on profitable agendas and ventures, means that inevitably and only naturally this type of series will be cut away. In the same way that the Sheffield Shield is cut away, the domestic one-day tournament is cut away, test series that don't involve the big nations are cut away. Everything that does not involve huge profit is cut away, and the Australian cricket schedule becomes smaller and smaller with only the big ticket items and nothing else really matters. And so quite obviously a test series against some minnow nation in the middle of winter on some grounds that are in the middle of nowhere with only a few thousand attendees at the ground, and it's so costly to get the TV crews and the players and the ground staff up there to actually get the game underway, that it's just not worth it, and it's better to not have that game get played. And so that is the trend that Australian cricket is heading, and it's only going to be natural that we're going to be seeing it more intensely put into practice over the coming few years. The fact of the matter is that the market of Darwin and Alice Springs, although there are people there who are craving cricket, every time that a cricket game is played in one of those two cities, the ground is always packed out and the crowd is very passionate and they're very much enjoying the spectacle of watching a major cricket match. So there is clearly a serious desire for more cricket in those two cities, but the fact of the matter is that the market is just not big enough to be worthwhile catering to. And so Australian cricket have decided to just not cater to that market. That's not a market they want to become attracted to, that's not a market that they want to produce content for, and so it's better to just leave them alone and make them watch TV and leave them alone to do their own thing. And so it is a great tragedy that Australian cricket has decided that Darwin and Alice Springs are not areas that they want to produce cricket for by hosting matches. And so it is likely that we will not see any future cricket matches there. We will not see another example of Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or Zimbabwe or Ireland or Afghanistan or the West Indies actually coming over during the winter to play some cricket, to play some test cricket, some one-day cricket and some 2020 cricket at those two places, Darwin and Alice Springs. And so it seems like those 3 winters where this did happen are going to remain the anomalies that they are presently, that they're just going to sit there in obscurity and we're just going to have to lament and wonder, what if things could be different? What if the Australian cricket culture was not so rigid and mindless and economistically obsessed with efficiency and rationalisation? What if Australian cricket was not so mad and insane and driven by the wrong people. It's quite clear that the wrong people are in charge of Australian cricket, and people are going to be suffering from it. Competitions are suffering, players are suffering, fans are suffering, and it's time for Australian cricket to go in a different direction, because the fact that the Sheffield Shield is being disregarded, being downplayed, being downgraded, the one-day tournament of domestic teams is being downgraded, and now there's no cricket that's going to be happening over the winter in Darwin or Alice Springs. And that's just another example of this downgrading that we're seeing by this economic rationalism coming from Cricket Australia. I only can hope that we're going to be seeing some changes in the future, but it's unlikely. Those 3 winter tournaments, 2003, 2004 and 2008, are likely going to remain anomalies throughout the history of Australian cricket, never to be repeated again. Experiments that were deemed failures, and so they were not attempted again. It's very sad, but it seems inevitable right now, because the way that Australian cricket is going, there will not be a return to this experiment to give it another go, because it's been deemed a failure, even though by many criteria it was a thrilling success. So that's all I have to say about this, and it's just so very disappointing that we're not going to be seeing some more positive changes in the future. But I am always going to hold out my hope that some changes might happen in the future. I'm not going to give up, and neither should you, but let's just wait and see what the future holds for us. Thank you, and goodbye.